Hello. We will be talking in this program about one of my very favorite topics, foods. We have a lot of information nowadays, some things very surprising information that can help us to know how to use nutrition to stay in the very best of health. So we hope you will join us for this program.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
I have always known that foods contained a lot of chemicals. When we say the word chemical, we tend to think of something like what we spray on plants to make them grow or to make them not grow or to keep bugs from being on them. But chemicals are what we are composed of. Our bodies are composed of those same chemicals that occur in plants and in the soil and in the air and in water. So when we study plants and study foods to learn what things are in those that can do some good for us in the body, we immediately begin to discover some very wonderful things, such as the powerful neuroprotective influences of blueberries. There are substances, chemicals, if you will, in blueberries that can protect the nerves, can protect the brain, and can make one's brain and nervous system stay young longer. Now, you may say, but I have my favorite foods, and I want to continue to eat those favorite foods. But I would like to have Rhonda Clark be with me now. And Rhonda, you work at Uchee Pines as a counselor.
Yes, I do.
Do you cook sometimes also?
Oh, once in a while I have the opportunity.
I heard not very long ago you had been the Sunday cook for the student cafeteria.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I enjoyed that a great deal.
What did you make that time?
Well, for breakfast we made a lovely fruit crisp, and then for lunch we had haystacks, which is a favorite at Uchee Pines.
A fruit crisp. That's fruit down in a bowl with a crisp topping?
Yes.
Baked until it is nicely baked?
Yes, warm with a golden brown crust.
And my favorite way to serve a crisp is the hot crisp in a bowl with banana ice cream on top.
Oh, sounds delicious.
Since you didn't pick up on that, I guess you didn't serve banana ice cream.
No, just a little soy milk.
Very good. Well, I like soy milk on it also.
Yeah.
And almond milk. I like almond milk and almond cream if the crisp is not too rich.
Yeah.
Now, what things can you tell us about the person who has a lot of favorite foods and the person knows that they're maybe not so healthful as they should be?
Yeah.
I'd like to make them more healthful, but I certainly don't want to miss my very favorite food. I remember when I was thinking about my favorite foods and trying to make them more healthful, I thought, well, one of my favorite foods was a stew made with some contraband little things from the ocean, which I don't use anymore. Don't even like to call their name because I don't like to even think that I used to eat those little creatures. But what can you do? Well, I was thinking, what can I do to make a nice substitute stew? And so it was potato stew, and it is wonderful. Use the same little oysterettes on top, and it's a very
delicious.
Nice stew. Tell us about favorite dishes and what you can do with those.
I will. I know that many of my favorite dishes, prior to learning about the benefits of a total plant-based diet, had meat in them. And what I wanted to focus on today on the program was how can a person whose favorite dishes have meat as a prime ingredient learn to make those or enjoy those in a meat-free way?
I'm certainly glad that you're saying something about substituting for meat, because although very many agencies, governmental agencies and other agencies, are working diligently to try to make meat a healthful dish as it is currently available to the consumer. We just have to say that meat is unhealthful.
Yes.
It's when you learn some of the practices in the marketing of meat, they're unsavory practices.
Yes.
And so, of course, we want to change a meat dish for something else. So
Yes.
give us some tips.
Well, I wanted to give some tips and started with favorite dishes. Many of my favorite dishes already had a plant-based substitute or alternative out there that as I tried them, I enjoyed them greatly. For example, spaghetti. Spaghetti sauce, was a favorite, spaghetti with a nice, rich, hearty meat sauce. But I tried a marinara sauce instead, completely plant-based, very delicious. Many other examples, fajitas. There were wonderful vegetable fajitas that were available. Very tasty. I didn't miss the meat at all. And chili, you can make a lovely vegetarian chili or a vegetable lasagna instead of a meat lasagna. So many of the favorite dishes, you can just try the vegetarian alternative for them and find that they're quite tasty and delicious. Many of my favorite recipes also included ground beef. And what could I substitute for ground beef? In a recipe that calls for it in a sauce or a soup, a lovely alternative is barley or wheat kernels, wheat berries, also known as bulgur. These make a nice chewy grain that very nicely replaces ground beef in, for example, spaghetti sauce or a soup. I also liked meatloaf and found that there are wonderful alternatives for ground beef in a meatloaf. Ground nuts, grains like brown rice. Dr. Thrash, I know brown rice is a main ingredient in some of the loaves we have there at UT Pines.
It's a favorite of mine.
Yeah. And legumes like the beans, they can be used as a replacement for even breadcrumbs made from a nice whole grain bread.
Or rolled oats.
Oh yes, rolled oats are wonderful. A binding agent and a nice replacement for meat in a meatless roast recipe. Now sometimes people miss that chicken breast or steak or slice of roast beef that forms the entree for the meal. And some substitutes that we can recommend. Tofu is a wonderful alternative. I was a little reluctant to try tofu. There, for me, was a little mental block I had to get past because it looked very different than anything I had tried before. But tofu is actually quite lovely. It really has not much flavor on its own and takes very nicely the flavors of things that you marinate it in or prepare it in. Tofu comes in different consistencies, and that lends itself nicely to different types of recipes. But a firm or extra firm tofu, sliced, marinated in a sauce, like a barbecue sauce or favorite sauce that you have, and then baked in that sauce, can make a lovely alternative for a meat entree.
Tofu is certainly a very versatile
Incredibly
food,
versatile.
because you can, if you slice it and freeze it, it takes on a bit of toughness, whereas just out of the container that you have bought in the store, it's so crumbly and so soft, you'd never believe that it could ever take on a toughness, but just freezing it and thawing it, then it can be used in various marinades to make a very, very nice meat consistency type of dish.
Yeah.
Now, I've been a vegetarian for so long, I don't miss the meat consistency either. I am just as happy to be without it. But sometimes there are people who miss that.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to accomplish that.
Another nice, chewy alternative is the cap of a portobello mushroom.
Oh.
They have a wonderful
Tell me some
flavor.
ways that you use that.
Oh, they're
and
delicious.
then I'll tell you some ways I use it.
Okay. They're lovely. Just brushed lightly with a nice soy sauce. Get the unfermented brand of soy sauce and grilled or broiled. That's a nice way to prepare them. They can be prepared really just by themselves, just steamed or baked.
Yes.
How do you prepare them?
Well, I generally start with some onions and saute the onions in just plain water, and maybe some strips of some thin strips of carrots in the water as well, and braise that a little bit, and then put the mushrooms in, cover it, and let them steam for quite a long time. A nice weight loss measure is a full portobello or other kind of mushrooms, such as some of these oriental mushrooms, and just steam them and squeeze a bit of the water out of them and put them in a couple of lettuce leaves. And the person eats that with just a little bit of something like maybe an unfermented soy sauce, or just a little salt, or a little bit of onion powder or garlic powder. Just absolutely wonderful. As a sandwich that has almost no calories in it. What, 40, 50 calories in a couple of lettuce leaves and a portobello mushroom.
Very
nice.
low.
And an interesting thing about portobellos and shiitake and maitake mushrooms is that they have known anti-cancer properties and known antioxidant properties. Now, an antioxidant is a substance that slows down the aging process. A pro-oxidant, or an oxidant, accelerates the aging process. So we want to do what we can to slow it down, and a portobello mushroom does have these anti-aging properties. And an interesting thing is that shiitake mushrooms can be grown on a wet log that you have in your backyard if you're a good gardener.
Have them immediately available.
That's right. You mentioned some bits of meat in dishes. Have you ever tried chickpeas, like in chickpea a la king?
Beans and other vegetables can make a wonderful alternative for meat.
Yes.
It's something you don't think of. A special vegetable can even be featured as the main entree of your dish. A stuffed pepper made with a lovely tomato sauce rice filling, or an acorn squash steamed and then the half filled with a nice vegetarian type stuffing. Those can make lovely main dishes. Even something as simple as a baked potato or a boiled artichoke can take the place of that main meat that you've been having. And those also work well then in stews and soups and stroganoffs, places where you're used to having bits of meat or chopped meats, chopped tofu, chopped portobello mushroom, chopped asparagus. There's lovely things that can be used in place of meat to make the recipes delightful and much more healthful for you. Now, one thing, Dr. Thrash, that I think is just indispensable for someone who is wanting to transition to bringing more fruits and vegetables into their diet, beginning to eliminate the meat and the animal products from their diet, are good vegan cookbooks.
Oh, yes.
Cookbooks that really can help guide you, instruct you, and give you recipes to try. So if you contact 3ABN, they will be happy to direct you to Uchee Pines, where we can lead you to some good resources, either in our bookstore or other places where we can help you get in touch with resources that will truly be completely free from animal products and be delicious and beneficial for your health.
Yes, I have enjoyed the substitutes that you can have for various meat dishes, and some things that aren't really a substitute in a sense, but like olives. The great array of dishes that you can make with olives. And if you want to go to a little expanse, such things as artichoke hearts and Chinese chestnuts, all of those can be nicely used to assist one in making very delicious and very satisfying vegan dishes that use no meat, no milk, and no cheese. I've asked Dr. Donald Miller, who also is a good cook and does a lot of his own meals. Dr. Miller, welcome to the program. And what can you tell us from, I know you've got a great store of knowledge about how to cook properly.
Right, well.
And how to serve. I've seen a table in your house all set for the guests, and it's a beautiful table. I guess you probably picked those up somewhere in the world maybe when you were a Marine or something.
Right, well, my silverware, which is really teak wood handles, came from Thailand and China, wherever. But as far as cooking, I'm not really an extremely good cook. I'm a basic cook. I believe that whereas it's nice to have lots of cookbooks, and I do have a lot of cookbooks, and I do love to cook. And when my daughter lived with me years ago, we would make some very nice things, but I've been single for many years, and so I am more basic. I like potatoes. I like rice. I like just the very simple things. And basically in my line of work that comes in very handy because I do a lot of traveling. Now I go to places like Japan, and the food there is absolutely great. And what they are finding is not so much finding, but what the statistics are telling us is that Japanese women are the longest lived women in the world, or longest lived people. Average about 85.53 years is the average age of a Japanese woman, which is quite a long life. Men come in second behind Icelandic men at about 78.64 years. And so they have a very long lifespan, and we wonder, why is that? The number one contributing feature, what they're telling us, is their diet. Their diet is very rich in vegetables, very low in animal fats. They do have animals there, but when you figure you've got this island, which is what Japan is, which is basically two large plains on which the 125 million people live, you don't have a lot of room for animals to be roaming about.
Might have some goats up in the mountainous regions.
Well, they have bears up in the mountain regions too to eat the goats. So.
Yes, there aren't too many.
Not too many. But anyway, they eat a lot of vegetables. And the thing I've noticed in Japan, as you travel from city to city, which you go through a lot of towns, in between is all rice fields.
Yes.
You've got this large plain, and you've got rice fields everywhere.
And every available piece of land is planted with something.
Everyone
with a
has,
fruit tree,
right,
or some kind of a permanent herb that lives there that they use in their cooking.
Right.
Very conservative use of their land.
You don't see large manicured lawns.
That's
you
true.
see large manicured rice paddies and vegetable gardens and trees, and everyone has it that has enough room to have one. And so the diet is very good there. I love the food in Japan. Now, granted, they do eat a lot of fish, but when I say a lot of fish, there's a lot of fish in the diets, but it's usually a small amount of fish to go with all the rice, all the vegetables, all the other things, which makes for a very, very good diet. Other places I travel. I was in Ukraine one time, and it was Christmas Day, which is a big day. Now, this isn't I don't know how you call it, well, it's the Orthodox Christmas, which is the first Sunday, I believe it was, in January. So here we are at this big meal, and there's a doctor at the end of the table, and I am the only vegan at the table, and they all know I'm a vegan, and so they send me out special things. And the doctor at the end, she says, well, it's easy to be a vegan in America because you have such a big selection. And I asked her, I says, what do you add to your diet that's missing in what I'm eating right now? All you can add, I mean, if you're over there, it's not like you can add, if you're not a vegan, peaches in December. Mm-hmm. All you're adding is chicken or pigs or cows, mm-hmm. which really adds nothing more than more protein, which is something that's very much not needed, mm-hmm. fat, which is very much not needed, and all the other things that go with these products. And mm-hmm. so here I am eating potatoes, I'm eating cabbage, I'm eating carrots, I'm eating onions, I'm eating kasha.
And walnuts.
Walnuts.
And beets.
I'm telling them, there's plenty of food here to eat. I am perfectly satisfied with the food there. In the summertime, when you've got the apricots, as we remember that summer we were there in in Kherson.
We had a team there, and yes. everybody just loved the
apricots and cherries, and you've got all these fruits and vegetables. And what they do is they store these things. The things you can eat basically fresh are the things that you can store for long periods of time. You can take a head of cabbage, put it in a cool place, and it will be there all winter long, along with the carrots and the
beets, of course, they're everywhere.
Absolutely. The onions, the garlic, and I mentioned the kasha. That's what they call the grains over there. buckwheat. I never liked buckwheat in this country. I love buckwheat over there.
They know how to prepare it
They
just
do
right.
know how to do this. And of course, they've got their borscht, which is nothing more than a nice vegetable soup, which has a lot of beets in it, which is sort of a red. All I leave out is just don't put in the sour cream into my soup. The soup is perfectly good, very healthy soup. So they have everything that we need for our diets. I hearken back in my mind to the time when, back in the mid-Victorian period in England, when Lord Palmerston was the Prime Minister of England. And the Scotch clergy sent a petition to Palmerston because they were having a cholera epidemic up in Scotland. And he says, please petition or ask the people of England to have a special day of prayer and fasting for us up here having this cholera epidemic. And Palmerston wrote back. Now, this is very interesting. He died in 1865, so this is really early stuff. What he came up with, he says, have the people clean and disinfect their homes. Provide the people with good food and good water and proper raiment, and you will have no reason to pray or fast. Nor will God hear your prayers while these, his preventives, remain unheeded.
My, that was very insightful and foresightful.
For the times in which he lived, this is back in the times of Pasteur and whatever else, this man had his fingers on the pulse of what was really wrong with the people. Clean up your act, clean up your diet. It's the Westerners, we in the Western world, the developed nations who are dying of the colon cancers, who are dying of the stomach cancers, who are dying of diabetes. And these things are virtually unknown of in the areas. Africa. I go to Africa. The main food in the parts of Africa I go to is a food called shima, which is made from mealie meal, which is nothing more than maize or corn ground up into a porridge. And they make a very thick paste out of this porridge. And then you get a big lump of this, and then they'll have a couple of types of what they call relish. Not the type of relish that we think about, but it might be some sauteed cabbage, or it might be some eggplant that's sauteed. And you have little bits of this, and you take a handful of the shima, and you form it, you eat with your fingers there, you form it with a ball, stick your thumb in it, and you scoop a little bit of this relish into the ball, and then pop it into your mouth and eat it.
So the little ball that you make is what, walnut size or acorn size?
It depends how big your mouth is. You know,
Your
it depends
mouth
how
should be
hungry you
small.
are. It is. It's a small.
Yeah.
It's what you can hold with your fingers closed in your mouth, in your hand, and it's just
About
a nice
walnut size, or a little smaller.
Yes, and the nice thing about this is while you're chewing on this, you've got to go back and you spend some time chewing because you're not bringing another handful up right away. It takes it's
With
an
a
art.
fork, you can keep shoveling
You
it in.
keep shoveling and swallowing and shoveling and swallowing, and you never chew well.
Yes.
Now in India, I have a bit more of a problem because their main staple is rice. And I love rice, and then they have their curry. Now we have them leave a little bit out of the hot stuff out of the curry, but it still is very good what they make us. But to mix the rice and the curry just right, and to get that into the ball and into the mouth without having it drip down your elbow and all over the floor, I did not have quite an amount of success. But I found that
it must be a bit more liquid.
Much more liquid.
Yeah.
And they've got a way of squeezing it between their fingers or something. I mean, they're artists at it.
Yeah.
But wherever I've traveled, and anywhere in the world, it's no problem being a vegan. It's Irkutsk. I mean, you're this talking about Siberia, almost on the shores of Lake Baikal. I go into the markets there. There is a wide variety of soy products. There are many people from North Korea and China there, and they've got their foods. And their foods, basically reading T. Colin Campbell's The China Study,
Yes.
he found that these, and this is a wonderful study, he found that these people don't get all these different cancers and diseases because their diets are so simple. You can go to the market, and they're selling the seaweed, they're selling the noodles, they're selling all these things, and I can look at all of it, and every single bit of it is vegan. And yet we say, oh, we'll die if we become vegans here. And that's not the case. Calcium's not a problem. Protein's not a problem. Everything we need, God has provided in a vegetarian diet.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes people say, well, but I don't like, let's say, seaweed. Well, I brought a sample of seaweed.
Can I have some for for my next meal.
This is probably my favorite type of
it.
seaweed.
Oh, yes.
I like this very much. I can see by your mouth watering that you do too. Well, this came from Korea, and these sheets are nicely, I like to toast them briefly in the oven, just a few seconds. I turn the oven on. By the time it comes up to the temperature, I'm ready to take it out. Then I just fold this a couple of times, and then I have these little sheets that I can easily break apart. And you have this little thing. And if you use chopsticks, which are nice to eat with rice, you just drop one of these on the rice, and with the chopsticks, you just pick it up with the seaweed and the rice, and it's introduced into the mouth in that way. Another way that I just really love the use of seaweed. Oh, and by the way, seaweed has recently been found, no question. I mean, it's not. This is a fact that seaweed has anti-cancer properties in it, and it is believed that one of the reasons why the Japanese women live so long is because they do eat a good bit of seaweed.
And their cancer rates are extremely low in Japan. They get cancer, yes, but it's extremely low compared to us.
And it seems that they handle certain types of cancers a lot better than we do in America. So what I do is to simply spread, let's say, my bean dish right here, and then I roll it up as a sushi.
Oh, yes.
Of course, you have to do this on the plate, but you just roll it up like this, and then you eat it as a sandwich. And if this end leaks a little bit, you just hold it like that. And it's a wonderful conversation piece when you have people visiting with you. You serve a platter of these nicely toasted sheets, and it does very nicely that way. And then here is another thing that, this you will not find, I guess, in a lot of foreign markets.
You'll find it's amazing how much you find over there.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I like shredded wheat, especially if it's made with these ingredients. It says
whole wheat, nothing but the wheat.
Whole grain wheat. That's what it says, whole grain wheat. And the advertisement was what attracted my attention to this. It says, 3 easy steps to reduce calories, lose weight, and maintain a healthier heart. Number 1, this is one step, replace 2 meals a day with a serving of any post-healthy classic cereal. And then they give you as choices Honey Nut, shredded wheat and bran, frosted shredded wheat, and shredded wheat. Of those, the one that I would tell you to use is the shredded wheat. Then they also say, focus on portion control. Don't overdo the size of your portions. And once you've had a good portion, don't go back for big seconds. If you need something more after you've already eaten a plate full, then just eat bread. If you're really hungry, bread will satisfy genuine hunger. And then, of course, the last thing they say is to get plenty of exercise. And those are things that anyone would be well advised to follow in a regular diet.